Hello, hi friends, this is Anand, and in this video we'll talk about my reflections, my thoughts after reading the book Doglapan by Ashneer Grover. What happened a few weeks ago, someone came to me and asked me, Anand, I'm thinking of doing internship and after that I would also like to join Ashneer Grover's company. तो मैंने कहा कि कौन सी कंपनी है? तो he told me that it's still in the stealth mode. तो मैंने पूछा क्यों ज्वाइन करना चाहते हो? तो he told me that he's going to give Mercedes to whoever joins and stays with the company for 5 years. I just felt that this is something very interesting. I need to know about this person. I need to research about this person. And since I had to give this advice, so I just thought, let me be informed, let me understand what's going on. So I read his book, and there are few things that I really liked about him, and there are things that I felt that we need to learn from him. Perhaps things didn't go in the right way. Since he has written the book, and I also watched a couple of videos, and I have also seen some of the episodes from the Shark Tank one where he was also one of the sharks, and he also invested in several companies. So based on whatever knowledge that I have, I'm just summarizing things that I liked, things I don't like, and things that we can learn from this book as well as this personality. So let's basically go with the areas things that I don't like, and perhaps things that we should learn from this. So the first part that I felt was lack of leadership skills, or leadership skills is something that we really need to improve. मुझे ऐसे क्यों लगा? Because any company is made of not just founders or founding team. They're made of colleagues. It's made of several teams. So now let's look into the first part, which is leadership skills. And I just felt that leadership skills is something that he really needs to improve. And I just felt that although he has got certain areas where he's extremely good at, especially fundraising part, but dealing with colleagues, dealing with team members, it's something that he really needs to work on. And why I felt so? Because of two reasons, right? One is I distinctly remember one incident in Shark Tanks where he mentioned that अगर ये मेरा CEO ऐसे करता तो I would have fired him. I mean, who wants to hear that, right? Imagine what's going through the mind of his colleague when he was watching this Shark Tank. वो दूसरे कंपनी स्टार्टअप जो था उसके साथ बात करते वक्त उसके खुद के एम्प्लॉयज के बारे में अगर वो ऐसे कह रहा है, तो I mean that's not the right way or right spirit where he is dealing with them. And second part that I felt was when he mentioned many things about his other colleagues. And in retrospect, he said that he made several mistakes while hiring people, and why he made how he made these mistakes and what made him feel like that. तो मुझे ऐसे लगता है ना, as a leader, we should be able to see things in the future. And if he's thinking of those things in retrospect, perhaps he was unable to recognize his colleagues or team members. He should have given feedback. He should have confrontation, with his colleagues, which I felt was missing. And this is something that we should be able to learn, this is one part that I felt. Then second part that I felt was dealing with the investors. And this is something also very important. I felt that he was, he ruined the relationship with some of his and very important investors, including Sequoia and other investors. So personally, I feel that when you get investments, and this is something that I have read from someone. So when you are investing from yourself or your pocket, you should be very careful of the funds. But when you are investing or when you're getting investments from others, you should be extra careful. And this is something, as I mentioned, I've read this somewhere. I just felt that, this is something very important. So when you're raising funds from other investors, you should be extra careful. You should ensure that you have that fiduciary duty, ensure that you're using the funds in the right way. And you should also leverage those connections by getting their experience, because they would have invested in other companies. They know other founders also. So you should learn from their experience. They should learn from what things they have learned, and you should keep good relationship with them as much as possible. It's not always that you will be able to spend a lot of time with them, but try to leverage wherever it's possible. And I just felt that, right, like, I mean, by ruining the relationship with these investors, I mean, he didn't do justice for the company and couldn't utilize the energy or utilize the connections from investors in optimum way. Okay. The third important thing that I learned was you have to be extra careful, right? Like when you are hiring people from your family or having, right, like people from your family and relatives, right? And as you would know, right, like in startup or in any entrepreneurship, I mean, it's all about the trust. And the first people, right, like who would trust you are people from your family and from your relatives as well. But what I've seen that you have to have unbiased, objective way of looking at them. And many times this is something missing. And this is like a great learning for me. I've worked with like few companies in the past where I went through this similar situation, and I just felt that giving unfair advantage to someone from your family just ruins the relationship. So what happens when you work with someone from your family? You give them different treatment, and that creates a lot of challenges within the company. So ensure that when you are hiring, and it's absolutely fine hiring people from family or your relatives, because in the initial stage you need their help, right? And they trust you and you trust them, and it's always good to have them, but ensure that there is objectivity and they are treated as any other employees and without like getting any additional benefits. So this is something very important. This is the third part that I've learned. The fourth part that I learned from this book was don't show off, especially when you are not profitable. I mean, this is again very subjective. I've seen, right, like great people, even after having great amount of money, they don't show off. Perhaps this may not be possible for everyone, but if you see Narayan Murthy, or I recently came to know that Anand, founder and chairman of Persistent, he takes his clients with Tata Nano, and he shows around, right, like different parts of Pune, and he also like uses his two-wheeler to move around. So like especially when he has created this billion-dollar empire, and if he is actually so grounded, I mean it's really very encouraging. But what I feel that you should also not do injustice to yourself. If you're making money, then of course feel free to show off. But when you're making losses, you don't have to show off. I mean, I think he has bought a lot of cars. I agree, right? Like, I mean, he would have purchased that like through second-hand market. But when he's not able to provide the similar level of benefits to his colleagues or team members, I mean, I just feel that, right, like, I mean, he should have that empathy, right, like for other team members as well, by not showing off how lavishly and like how great, right, like he's able to live. So again, this is my opinion, but I just felt that he just went too far on that part. Then something, very important, and this also, right, like I've seen that many great founders have this ability, and I don't think, right, like he has done it. He has never mentioned that explicitly, but based on whatever we have like reading in the newspaper and everywhere, I mean, I just felt that this part is something very important. So what is it? So you should not use companies' money for personal expenses. If you like something, you should not just take the undue advantage of your position to buy things that you are not supposed to do. Again, I mean, it comes back to this fiduciary duty, right? Like it's your fiduciary duty. You have received funds, so it's up to you. How are you going to use those funds? And it's something very important that you should use funds only for the benefit of the company and not for personal expenses. Again, I don't want to say that like he has used it, but I just felt there are like few instances where he went for this final cricket match, like at Dubai or some like other places. Again, I just felt that, right, like I mean, he has to be extra careful. And I've also seen some of news where his founding team, like other members, were saying that like he has spent almost like 80 plus CR on his personal expenses. Again, I have not done, right, like that due diligence, but I just feel that like we have to be extra careful, and we have to have that within, right, like ourselves, that we should not use, right, like those funds, because these are funds from investors, right? So these are things that I feel that I didn't like about like him, and things that I feel that like we should also learn from them and try to utilize or try to use them in our startup. Now, let me talk about things that I really liked about him, right? So some of the great things about him are the way he raised funds. I mean, he was amazing at raising funds. Like from the day one, like he joined the company or started this Bharat Pay. I mean, he was after getting funds. I mean, he successfully got funds from so many different investors. And this may be related to his past experience as an investment banker. But the way he was able to raise funds was really amazing. And I mean, raising funds helps you move very quickly. But as I mentioned earlier, you really need to find out whether you have the product market fit before you raise funds, because if you don't have, then you just spend money, right, like on unnecessarily, and you don't actually get any output out of it. So yeah, that is something really good. I mean, he was very good at raising funds, so I really like that way. Then second part that I really liked about him was calmness and expressionless, right, like way of interacting, be it on interview or in Shark Tanks as well, where he just felt that he never showed, right, like any expression. And especially, right, like when things are going well, it's fine, but when things are not going well, having the same level of expressions, and sometimes like people call it as sthita prajna, right, is like amazing, right, like a quality that one has. And I mean, again, this is something also very popular in Japan. If you see sumo matches, right, if any sumo wins the match, I mean, he will never display or show happiness. I mean, he will be as calm as he entered, right, like in the match. And similarly, if you lose the match, you will not also see, right, like anger or anxiety or any expressions, right, on the face of that sumo. So again, like sthita prajna, right, like not showing any expressions is also a great thing that I liked and would learn from Ashneer. So again, these are my thoughts. I hope you like this video. If you like, please share this video with your friends. Please comment on these videos and let us know, right, like what you think about Ashneer Grover, and would love to also reflect on the things that you have shared. Thank you.